Hi, everyone. So we're going to pick up where we left off on the forward kinematics scene. We had used that scene to set up the entirety of the hierarchy for our right leg and left legs, as you can see on the outliner. And we were able to post each one of the positions on our walk cycle for the legs using forward kinematics. As you recall, that took quite a bit of time because we had to keyframe absolutely everything. Now, what we're going to do for this portion is we're going to do the exact same motion, but we are going to be using inverse kinematics. This solution will allow us to create auto keyframes on the fly as we go, and it will make it a lot easier for us to animate. So in order to do that, I need to create a couple of inverse kinematic handles. So what I'm going to do for those IK handles, they're going to go from the left hip to the left ankle, and from the right hip to the right ankle. To do so, all I need to do is switch my menu to the rigging menu, and under the skeleton drop-down menu, I'm going to go to create IK handle. Now, as you know, IK handles will basically allow me to control the entirety of the joint structure from one single point. So I'm going to click the base of the IK handle over on the hip, and then the actual handle, the effector, over on the leg. So with that created, sorry, that's the handle here. This is the effector. This is the base of the IK handle. This will be the handle. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing for the other leg. So I'm going to press the Y key on the keyboard to recall the tool. And I am going to click on the hip on the right leg and click the handle on the ankle of the right leg. Now, with that done, what that's going to do is going to control the entire structure from the handle. So if I were to select the handle, let's say, and I switch my tool to the move tool, if I were to move my tool up and down, my handle, then my leg will respond to that accordingly. The joints will work. That's part of the reason why I told you guys when we were building the bone structure for the bone structure for the legs to move the little joints at the knees a little bit forward. And the reason for that is because if we had kept them straight down as we had constructed them, then it would have been up to the computer to decide which way this would bend. And so we helped that decision by moving the little joints slightly forward before we create the parenting and all that other stuff that we did on the forward kinematics exercise. So now with that in mind, now when I bend this, the joint knows to bend in that direction. That's going to make it a little bit easier. Let's use the other handle. Let's check that that other leg works. The left leg works as well. And that's good. So now we could actually rename these handles left handle and right handle. So that way we know which one's which when we are animating. That's one thing. Now notice that we still have control of everything from the pelvis. So if I move from the pelvis, then everything works. But now that I have the IK handles set up at the ankle level, what I can do is I can select both of these, and then I'll press the Shift and W keys on the keyboard. This will create keyframes for just the translation portion of that particular, for the translation properties for those particular handles. So if I were to move the pelvis down now, this keyframe forces those handles to stay in place. So if I move this down, my legs will bend because the ankle handles are holding the feet in place. That works really well, except for the fact that if I look at it over here, you'll notice that my legs are bending, my feet are going down below the ground. So in order to stop that, I need to create a couple of IK solutions for these legs as well, for the feet, I'm sorry, down here. So with that done, let me go ahead and reset everything so that I am in the upward position. And I'm going to create an IK handle for the left foot and an IK handle for the right foot. So to do so, I'm going to go ahead and go to my tool again. And I'm going to click starting on the ankle and then putting the handle on the foot, on the front of the foot. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the other foot. So I'm going to press the Y key on the keyboard to recall the tool. Boom. And there. So now those two handles are now the handles that control the feet. If I were to move this down, they still move. But just like with the ankles, if I were to select these guys and press Shift W to create keyframes for translate values for that property for those ankle handles, I mean for the feet, for the toe handles or for the feet handles. Now when I move this down, my feet don't move. And so that they only move if I overextend, as you can see. But even at that, they're forcing the legs to stretch, as you can see. So that they're doing their job. They're holding the geometry in place. Let me undo the move, the translate in order to reset. And now I have the basic setup for the next steps, which is the animation. So I can either start from this position, or I can go ahead and post my first position to start my walk cycle. So either one of the two ways is going to work. I prefer to start from a walking stance, but let's say, for example, if you if you're already walking. But if you want to start from here, all you need to remember is the different steps that go along the walk cycle, which include contact, which is when both feet are on the ground. One is behind, one is in front, and both feet are on the ground. Recoil, which is when you bend your forward knee and your back knee, but you start lifting the back foot. Then the passing, which is the back foot coming across in front of the other leg, and the leg that is not the front leg in this case would be going straight up. And then the high point, which is when you stretch your front leg completely and you have moved your right leg to the front. So basically, assuming that we remember those positions, I can go ahead and start that walk cycle. I can either do it in place or I can move through space. So let's go ahead and try to move through space. I want to move this at least a half a step. So I'm going to use the side view for this. I'm going to set up keyframes for all the parts that I need to animate. So for this, I want to go ahead and set keys for the pelvis joint and the 4 handles. So I'm going to go ahead and select the pelvis, Control select all the handles, and press the I can go ahead and do just translate in this case because we're only moving the joints. We're not really doing any rotation. So I'm going to go ahead and press Shift W. And that should create keyframes for all the translation values for whatever I have selected here. And then I'm going to go to, let's say, about 4 frames. Let's do this on 5s. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the 5th frame, and I'm going to move my pelvis forward about 2 units. Then I'm going to go ahead and select my whichever leg I want to start with. So let's say I want to start with the right leg. And I want to move this forward along with my IK handle. So I need to remember which IK handle goes with which leg. And in this case, the IK handle one goes with the left foot. And IK handle 2 is the right foot. So I can actually organize my hierarchy here by pressing the middle mouse button and dragging in that left foot selection in between the left H and the right H. So now that I have the left handle, so I can select both of these and I can move that leg forward. I can also move my pelvis down so that you don't see this little lift over here at the beginning. And I can keep on moving these 2 down again to the front ever so slightly to stretch out. Perhaps move this down even more. And now let's move the left leg to stretch it out. Now that I have that, I can go ahead and move these 2 actually up, because when you're moving, you actually want to move up this way and perhaps this way. So that is your first motion. And as you can see, because I had auto keyframe set up, and I'm using only the handles, now my keyframes are automatically set up. And so I can go ahead and start animating this. That might be a bit too high a position for the leg. Now let's go ahead and go to frame 10 and stretch it out all the way. So I need to move the pelvis even further forward, maybe even further down a little bit. Get the 2 left handles and move this down. And maybe move just the left foot forward. That's not just the other one, sorry. Both of them like this. Stretch it out all the way. Perhaps move this back slightly. And move my pelvis down a little bit. So now we have basically the motion of the step there. Now this is very mechanical still. So I would probably at this point move this up a little bit and try to, fix it as best as I can to truly match the position of how the foot would go. But that's why you have those handles basically. But right now, if I were to go back to my perspective viewport, you'll notice that the motion is rather mechanical. It's almost like it's touching to see if the ground doesn't fall underneath it. So you have a way of controlling that from the IK handles. The point being is that you can now control these fairly easy from those 4 points by simply matching the position of the pelvis and these guys. Basically not matching. changing the position of the pelvis and the four handles. And now you're only concerned about moving the handles in order to create the walking cycle. So let's say, for example, if we wanted to add another frame at 15, maybe we'll just move the pelvis even more. And then at this point, I would start seeing my other leg raising up and moving forward. So let's say I get that right handle. Boom. Let's move that. Let's move the handle up first. There. Boom. And so now you can see that I'm basically building now. I see a floating leg right here, like the character is in the midair right here. So that means I need to set up keyframes for this back leg wherever the other leg was set up, which was at 5 and 10. So let's say at 5, I need to set up keyframes for this guy so that he doesn't float out of space. So let's go ahead and go back before I animate that portion and set it up. So let's go ahead and go to the right leg on frame 5, create a keyframe, Shift W. And now I can go ahead and move to frame 10, and I can move this handle up and forward, pelvis forward and up a little bit. So now you see that you're creating the motion, which is a lot faster than what we were doing in class with the forward kinematics. And obviously, like if you use the guide of the different walking cycle guides that I provided in class, you should be able to create a full walking cycle with the geometry that was provided.